Hey everyone, it's 1010 here. I know it's been a while, but I just had something to share really quick. Um, things are getting really interesting because on my Facebook algorithm, and we know that AI is just really our collective consciousness, and the internet has now become a place of simulation, I guess. So where there's the death of the internet once AI took over. So there's parts of the internet that we can no longer access because we're only shown the algorithm. At least that's what I gather. So on Facebook, I don't know if it's because I'm interested in this stuff and it just is showing me all these things, but there seems to be an array of people really pressing hard on the Ashkenazi Jews. And as you know, on this channel, and what I believe is that there is a group of people that came here from heaven to earth to show the humans the way. I'm sorry, I'm being sarcastic, but listen, this is the truth. The Jupiters, and that's what they come from Jupiter. They don't come from this planet. And you're going to say, well, how did such a small percentage of people gain so much control? Now, we can think of tools that can make that seem credible. So, in my mind, I can think of certain situations in the Bible or their Talmud, whichever, where they provided technology to the humans in trade for positions of power and wealth. Now, I also like to say this: you cannot put everything bad on one group of people. Okay? You can't do it. And I'll give you an example. My brother in law, he's Ashkenazi, like half Ashkenazi or quarter or something. He doesn't practice anything, no Judaism, nothing. He practices nothing. Okay? He has assimilated into this place as a human, right? From this planet. Now, there are others like the Sanhedrin, whom, mind you, every president go in and talk to them in America and make them sign the 7 Noahide laws, right? And why would we do that? Because it's part of the deal. It's part of the deal for the technology, and this is my, thought or whatever. Doesn't necessarily mean it's true. For part of the technology, part of the control. Now, we do know that certain Jupiters have control over the internet, okay? They have control over pornography, they have control over entertainment, sports, you know, YouTube at one point, um, Facebook, you know, anything you can really think of, they can they can be placed back to that technology, right? So when we look at a particular group of people and we can see that they've gained a position of power, all right, they have they have been given after World War II by America their own country, right? Because it was taken from them. They never had one to begin with. Okay? That's a completely different people group that they took over and dispersed. And why they're trying to find different types of DNA and do all this extra stuff, because they need to know where these people are. Now, do I believe that there are Hebrew Israelites? Yeah, because at one point they're, Hebrews, and the next minute they're Jewish. And, you know, bizarre, weird. So you have a group of people, humans, a type of human. Obviously, they can assimilate here. I've talked about their diet and why it's sacred. I talk about why they talk about being set apart. It has nothing to do with the God that they serve. Nothing. They're just preserving their bloodlines. And why would you preserve your bloodline? Because you are not from here. And they are emphasizing the importance that you can't mix with certain people on this planet. You can mix with some of them. Now, I also want to point out that, you know, the enslavement of peoples here on this planet was done primarily by them. Hitler saw them as a problem. He also stated that the world will one day thank him. Now, do I think what he did was right about wiping off an entire group of people? No, but I understand where he was coming from. Okay? If you have a species that is invading your area, regardless of how you feel about it, you're going to sit there and say, oh, what can I do to get rid of them? It's going to be problematic in the long run. All right. Why is the cube important? The cube in Revelation is shown. The cube on their foreheads is shown. The cube in Mecca, which is not Saturnian worship. It's not. Okay. It's the Jupiter ship that they came down from Jupiter on. They came down in the cube. It's also some type of terraforming box. That's why, the Saturnians circle it. And then you place the stone inside and it terraforms a new planet. The Saturnians, who are Middle Eastern, most of them, they don't even understand why they circle the cube. Okay. They're just reenacting something that happened. That's all they're doing. So we have a group of people. Some people are like, yeah, they came from this one area. They come from a lot of different areas. If you really look at it, they come from a lot of different cultures, a lot of different empires, and those empires have collapsed. Those empires, that was their downfall, was when the higher ups in that group of people, okay, took over, made deals with these different civilizations, all right, tricked them, whatever the case might be, to get a foothold, to get a stronghold. A lot of you think, maybe, I can't tell you what you think, that's wrong. The consensus is that we need to support Israel. Israel owns America. Israel is the #1 country in technology. Okay. And how is that possible? Because they have the Ark of the Covenant and they have other types of technology from their spaceship. Okay. Who knows where the cube is? It's here somewhere. There's cubes all over the world as statues and memorials. Okay. To this situation that happened. But people don't want to talk about that. Some people say, well, they don't. Maybe I'll just say it. We're in the 1,000 years or after Christ came from heaven to earth or whatever it is, when Satan is loosed on the planet. All right. You have to think about not the religious aspect of it, but as humans. And I say this because it was the easiest to infiltrate the white people here because we're similar to them, but we are not the same. You know what I mean? So the focus here is I'm really concerned about the misplacement of anger towards this particular group of people because someone sold humans out. Someone sold us out. And I might get my channel completely wiped out. I don't know. Maybe nobody cares about what I'm saying. Someone sold humans out. There are so many situations now where humans are hating humans. Now, and then, like I said, I go into my algorithm in Facebook and it's just constantly, the Ashkenazi, look at what they've done. Look at what they've done. Look at what they've done. Yes, look at what they've done. And as humans, your anger is being misplaced. You're just looking at it as, they are doing it and they're the bad guys and this and that, right? But we also have humans here that have sold us out. whatever it is that y'all think that's in the White House. Some people think they're reptilian. Some people think they're from another planet. You know, some people think the stars are vampires. These people are vampires. They regenerate themselves and they come back. Some people think they're cloned. You know, you can look back and you can see certain stars, certain presidents, they have doppelgangers, right? But there's also, you know, something that happened in 1972. Time travel took place. We are still stuck in 1972. And that is shown, time has stopped. However, we still get old. We still get old. And why do we get old? Because the type of technology that was brought here reversed the axis of the earth from, you know, this is my hypothesis, reverse the axis, the direction that the earth spins. It slowed the day. Okay. The days were probably longer. People were taller. You know, people were different back then. People were smarter. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody's out here. Oh, I've got 140 or 61 IQ. Doesn't matter. Still not smart enough. You know, I'm talking about people that created, they composed, they they built machines way different than we do now. The technology, Tesla. I'm talking about that type of intelligence. Also could be contributed to some secret technology that was provided by the Anunnaki. But a lot of people, our mindsets are stuck in the human experience. We got to go to work. We got to pay the bills. We got to do this. We got to do that. Right. But what are we doing collectively to ensure that things are done right? We don't. There's this Disney movie. It's called Ants. And the grasshoppers come every year and they, you know, they're bigger, but there's not as many of them. But they're like, if you don't gather food for us, we're going to destroy you and blah, blah, blah. They put them in a position of fear, but the ants don't realize there's more of them and they're actually stronger because ants can lift like 50 times their body weight or whatever. Okay. But the problem is what is that? It's that mentality of there's no other way. I'm just as guilty. There's no other way. I sit here in my house and work my 9 to 5 and, you know, I got my family. I'm living the American dream. But we don't understand certain things about our own planet. This is a water world originally. I mean, it's a water planet. There's barely any land here. And we can talk about if the earth is flat or round or whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, we know that we're lied to. I mean, that's really the point. Is there space? Is there not space? But the thing is to really get down to the nitty gritty that our whole planet has been jeopardized. And if revelation from the Bible is true, guess what, human beings? We're screwed. We're screwed because we're going to stand there and we're going to try to fight whatever beings come through the clouds or whatever, if that's the truth, if that's real. Now, in Genesis, it talks about the sons of God coming from heaven to earth and finding women. Okay, you're thinking this is probably the on it. It's not. It's a story about the Jupiters coming from their planet to this earth. And guess what? It was just men on that ship. All right. It was just men, their version of men on that ship that came here, took wives from the human beings of other men here on this earth, conquered, took over, destroyed every single time. I mean, not every single, but that one time. And then they spent a majority of their lineage, if you've ever read the Old Testament, which is a story of their life, going to different planets or places here on this planet, conquering the nations in the name of their God, right? Okay, don't leave anything. Don't leave a dog, don't leave a cat, don't leave a bird, don't leave a roach. Kill everything. Their mindset is we will take over and we will conquer. Our mindset for a lot of us human, it's fine. We don't mind as long as you're not going to hurt us, right? Think about the indigenous people when the first group of pilgrims came. I'd like to think it was a good story. They both got along and they helped each other. And that's humanity, right? People coming over from their countries having a hard time. That's humanity. That's the tenderness, that's the care that people have in their hearts. That's shown to others. And in the hands of the wrong people, aliens, whatever, it can be used against us. And it has been used against people. It has been used against you. I'm not saying that every person is right. Sometimes I watch the news and I think people literally have no souls. You know, I'm sitting here thinking there's so much hatred going on in this world right now. And I was like, I don't hate. I was like, well, never mind. I hate pedophiles. I I hate people that hurt other people intentionally. I hate people with sick mentalities towards others. I hate people that crave war and famine and disease to fall on other people, to completely eradicate a whole people group based on their hatred of just superficial reasons. Because there's one thing, like there used to be tribal wars that took place. Okay, well, we're going to meet and we're going to fight each other for this particular strip of land. And whoever conquers it, you have to stay off of it. All right. That's understandable. It's inside people that they would do that. But I'm talking about the global eradication of a whole species. You know, abortion was created from a person that came from Hitler's, um, what do you call it? Operation Paperclip, whatever. Can't remember her name. Margaret, it's not Margaret Thatcher. That was the prime minister. But you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, she came over here, set up abortions, right? Or that was a way of life, or whatever the case might be. Now, listen, as a Jupiter, you cannot have abortions. You can't hurt your kids because it's important to carry on the bloodline. They don't care if humans do that to each other. They don't care about that. You can feed your child to Moloch. That's how they view it. You actually will feed your child to Moloch for you. I'm on a rant, just go with it. But we look at this particular people group, these Jupiters, and they came from the desert. And in the Bible, it talks about they didn't even know where this people group came from. They don't even know where they came from. Now they've assimilated, but the thing is, they don't assimilate. They clump and they take over internally. All right. That's how they do it. That's how they do it now, And then they've conditioned people to think that they're the victim. It's very manipulative and it's wrong. So while we're all encouraging, you know, things to happen to other people groups over what? A war between the Saturnians and the Jupiters that started on another planet. They don't get along with each other, and humans are in the middle of it. And they're never going to get along. And I think that the Holy Land there, obviously, it's holy to them. And why is it holy to them? I will tell you, because that's where they were portaled in from their planet, as probably where the box was that dropped them in there. The 144,000 male virgins. We got to save our planet. We got to save our seed. They're probably, if there's other planets with people on them, they probably dropped them off there too. To do what? to conquer. All right. We're so far behind technologically. We're still stuck in 1972, the touchscreen, 1972. Free energy is not a real thing. I'm surprised they let people drive Teslas, but guess what? They found a way to get around it. Ask me how. You plug it into your house. We're still going to make money off of you. You think you're getting free energy? No, unless there's another way. You guys know that. And you can tell me, and I'll just say I'm wrong. You know, there's way too much money in gasoline. Wouldn't they want people driving hybrid cars around? They're going to let you think we're trying to make a change in the world and we're going to let people drive hybrid cars. Unless they take all that gas or that oil and they use it for something else, because that's liquid gold right there. It's liquid gold. Now, as far as I know, in the things that I've read, there were not 6 million Jupiters over there in Germany. There weren't even, if that's the case, it's like if most of the Jupiters were eradicated by Hitler, how did they come out of the concentration camp and populate so many different areas, populate a whole country, create a whole country with it, with that many people? I know some of them are over in America and some are other places, but I'm talking about this is a very small people group. Now, Hitler, I guess, was running experiments on them also. And a lot of them were weird experiments, right? Like the twins, they did experiments on them and like tried to, I don't exactly know what went on completely. All right, just to be honest, I really don't know. That's something I have to look into, but I don't know if I want to. All right. He is trying to understand their anatomy. He's trying to understand what makes them different. It had nothing to do with them crucifying Jesus. It had nothing to do with that. He spent so much time doing what? Going to different countries and finding documentation on the Jupiters, history. Everybody's like, oh, he burned all the books and he did this and that. I bet you he didn't burn all the books. I bet you he didn't burn all the art. That was probably the Americans and, the, is it the Allies? Their allies came in and just were like, let's destroy all of the remnants so that people don't have access to this information anymore. Hitler was trying to find out why. Now, was his hatred misplaced? Not necessarily. Okay. He was tired of what they were doing to his country, how they had polluted it, how they had transformed it, how they had taken it over. And sometimes the only thing that you can do is something like that. But I don't believe that the Jupiters were eradicated like that. I don't. Were some people taken to these different, concentration camps? Were some Jupiters, some Polish, you know, those types of, yes, Germans, Americans, they lost their lives. And it's horrendous. It's horrible. We had a whole world war, two of them, two of them. The second one, why did America go in later on? Ask yourself that. Hmm? They were promised some type of technology at that point. I don't know what it was, but the higher ups of the Jupiters went to them and said, you need to intervene. This is what we have. We'll give you this technology and but we own you at this point. They're probably so amazed by what was offered that they just couldn't say no. And it also goes back to like the mud flood and the beautiful historic buildings that were there before. the Jupiters came. Some of that stuff, they want you to think they've been here a really long time. They have not been here a very long time. They have not been on this planet a very long time. All right. Once they got here, the old world was destroyed. It was destroyed. They came here on their ships, and that was it. And they took over. So a lot of history just made up. And then you're like, well, how do you know what's true and what's not true? The evidence. That's why you have to go back and look at the evidence. How do things correlate with one another? How does it make sense? You know, you look at the world's fairs. They said there was something that awful that happened. And then all of a sudden they had all these world's fairs, and people dressed nicer, they looked nicer, they had AC back then. We're acting like they were Neanderthals. No, it was just a different group of people, a different time. Then something happened, a mud flood took over because, this is just a hypothesis, when the Jupiters came, again, they landed, they had to make the Earth a little more habitable for them. People lived a little bit longer. People had better lives. There was free energy. You know, in the Bible talks about, I'll no longer let people live to be 100 years old or whatever, or however old. People lived a long time, still looking 30 years old on this planet. They did something to the axis of the earth. They either, switched it, reversed it, slowed it down, sped it up, whatever it was, so they could come here. They only eat certain things. They don't eat everything that humans eat. A lot of us will eat almost anything. They won't. They need a cow to digest. I think cows have like 3 stomachs or something. Horses have 2 or 3 stomachs, but we're not going to go there. All right. They don't like chickens for some reason. They have a weird ritual with chickens. So they don't like birds, which means they don't like the Anunnaki for some reason. That's my, concept. But they love the cow. Love it. You know why? Because when they first got here, they probably brought cows with them, a certain kind of cow. They couldn't eat anything. Imagine coming to a planet and you don't know what to eat. Just because those people look like you doesn't mean you can eat what they eat. Because a lot of the food here on this planet is not good for you. The vegetables, the fruit, they contain oxalates or whatever, and they kind of like, they can poison you a little bit. It's pretty dangerous. You know, I go down the rabbit hole of the internet again. Don't eat vegetables, don't eat fruit, they'll kill you. It's like, well, what are we supposed to eat? You know? But you have to eat what works for your body and what works for your morality, like what you deem is good for you within reason. Okay. So they had to pick animals that had multiple stomachs to make sure that whatever that animal ate, it wasn't going to get to them and poison them. That's my thought process on it. They don't like any type of seafood, okay, unless it has scales. They don't eat anything with blue blood. All right. Which is like the horseshoe crab, which is like prehistoric almost. It's a pretty awesome creature. And they like sheep, you know, or lambs. They like to eat lambs, which is, I'm just saying, like, if you come to another place, you have to bring your own food. It might not even be from here. If I said cows aren't from this planet, most of you would be like, oh, how dare you? Might not be. This is a water planet. It's probably mostly fish and water creatures. you know? But you got to bring your own food on that trip. And then you got to wait to see, okay, that animal eats it. So, okay, we can eat that. Olives might not even be indigenous to this planet. I really don't know. But all I'm saying is that they have cultivated and created a narrative, okay, which is a clever one in a lot of ways to where they pretty much dominate a lot of America, if not all of it. And they're trying to dominate and take over in other countries. And some countries will not abide by it. They will not abide by it. And it's not because they hate these people. They do not want their country to be taken over. America has been taken over, and the filth and disgust that you see here is a result of the perversion provided by this group of people. If we give them entertainment, they won't pay attention to what's going on. They have no idea what's going on. No idea. But the mindset that people really think that this group comes from this planet is mind boggling when all that alien stuff is everywhere. And alien stuff, I mean like just weird things. They wear um, the Teflon on their head or on their hand. That's a spaceship. It's a cube. It also is like a mother box. It can bring, a planet into existence. It can terraform a planet. For all we know, maybe this was a complete water planet and they had to put some earth on it. And then everybody else was just brought here. See, we don't even understand our own existence. Why we're even here. You think you're here to work and pay bills? No. Mm-mm. To have kids and populate the earth? No. Mm-mm. It's so much greater than that. Every person here, every soul that has a social security number has been bought and sold on the stock market and is owned privately by a Jupiter. Our world is not our world anymore. This is their planet. And we have forfeited it through our negligence. We have forfeited it through our stupidity. Now, there was a time we didn't know, but now we do. But now we do. So what are we going to do? Are we going to succumb? Because what will happen will not be pretty. It will not be pretty. I mean, I have a couple of theories. Whatever's following them through space, kind of like a weird Marvel movie or, where they have those world eating gods or world eating, what was that? It was Transformers, the Return of the Beast or something, where this, I can't remember, man. But anyway, he needed the planet. He needed the energy from he'd eat the whole planet, eat the whole thing, you know? And he had his minions, that would bring him to the planet. And they'd say, okay, now you're gonna have it. Now you're gonna, and we see that so many times in these movies as entertainment. And we think it's some kind of story. And do I think that there are Transformers? I don't know. But all I know is that the concept is there is something that is feeding off the energy of people. It's feeding off the energy of human beings. It We can see that with adrenochrome, okay? With the Hollywood stars or the people in power and how they feed off the energy of children, which is also in a Disney Pixar movie called Monsters. Monsters Inc., where they collect the screams of children in a container so they can feed off of it. These monsters. It's like, I'm trying not to be angry. I'm trying not to be hateful right now, but certain things like this really get me going. Really, really does. You know, the feminization of the man. You could say, how did that start, 1010? Well, guess what? The Jupiters like to have people transform themselves. And why would they want to do that? Because if you take away the masculinity of the species that you're trying to dominate completely, that renders them helpless. Take their testosterone away. You know, feed them, pump them full of estrogen and all kinds of stuff. Turn them out. They don't know which way they're going. I have a feeling, you know, if we don't get it together, because there are some masculine men still here on this planet. Well, it's going to be the women that are going to be standing out there, you know, with a handful of men. Maybe not a handful, but you get the point. The systematic attack on the family, the systematic attack on people just working together. You know, like if you're Republican or Democrat, I don't care. You have a choice, it's your choice. But whenever I talk to the left or the right, oh, I wish they would just, they're just so lost, they're so sick, they don't even see, it's the same rhetoric. They just don't see what's wrong with them. So in essence, what you're telling me is if they go to your side, that's the right side. Neither one of you are right. Because you can't even find a common ground. And that's the point, right? That's the point. Let's put men against women and women against men. Let's put the Republicans and the Democrats against each other. And let's put the single moms versus, you know, the single women versus the pick me's and the simps versus the alphas and the whatever, you know, craziness. The the blacks versus the whites, and they're not even black and not even white, the peach colored people versus the brown colored people, and the orange people versus the yellow people. It doesn't matter. Like, that's their mentality. And I know some of you are going to be offended by what I just said. I wake up every day, I see myself as peach or pink colored. They don't have that on the spectrum. They're just like, hey, you're white. Oh, okay. But then we can group you in with the Jupiters. And so every situation, did you know that in my culture, which my dad was Welsh, right? So Gaelic, the Druids, all that were completely run out, almost killed and destroyed by who? By all the Johns, the kings of that era, who in fact are of Jupiter descent. Why do you think they built the wall over there in China? Who are they trying to keep out? I know a lot of you say, oh, it's for Tartaria and this and that. They did not want a certain people group in their country. They have kept their ways and they have worked very hard to keep their ways. And a lot of those countries are perceived as dictatorships. Oh, you don't want them to come over? No, we don't. We see what they did to you. We'd rather not. Thank you. Have a nice day. It's more than just hatred. It's about protection. It's about understanding what you're opening yourself up to. I don't have time for racist ideology. And like, I appreciate and respect different ethnicities. I was very fascinated by the Jewish religion. I was very fascinated by their culture and how they did things. But then I realized that a lot of what they do to celebrate these remembrances is what has happened, not based on how they lost Jerusalem, but when they were off of Jupiter. And they love the J word, J, even though I think in Hebrew, the J wasn't even available until later on. I don't remember when. I think it's a Y, Jerusalem or something, Jerusalem, something like that. And they all point back, oh, it's the synagogue of Satan. Those are, and Satan actually means accuser, opposer. They oppose us. Do you understand that? Now, if you're sitting here today and you're saying, but I'm of Jewish lineage, but do you incorporate yourself in certain things that are being done? Probably not. You probably have no idea. You're just doing religion. That's how it is for you. And nothing wrong with it. But just so you know, it's all a remembrance of what happened to your people in the way you lost your planet. And it's just about like, why is the red heifer so important? Because that's what y'all eat. That's considered like the pure bloodline of food for you from your planet. It was infiltrated by whatever cow we have here. There's only certain things that you can eat. If I go to a strange planet, I don't know what to eat at all. Everything might kill me. I might die from it. Can't even, what kind of liquid is this? I need some water. I don't even know if I can drink that. I don't know if I can eat that. That's why they have their food laws. They don't eat pig because it's part human. Pigs don't even make sense. And I know a lot of you are like going to be sensitive about it, but pigs are an experiment of human and boar. Boars are they're the aces, they're the originals. There's been experiments going on for years. You're eating people. You don't even know it. I eat people by eating a pig. Pig has the same heart. That's why when pigs look at you, I can't go into it. It's too sad for me. You don't want to infiltrate your DNA. It's also strange, which I don't know what I was thinking, but milk from humans is actually the mother's blood filtered out through the breasts. Wild. So you're telling me, and maybe this isn't right. I just saw it on the internet. But it kind of makes sense. I'm like, where does the fluid come from? The water in your blood. So then your blood is filtered, but it's like a milky substance. So it contains this plasma or whatever, antibodies and things, goes to your child. But we're over here drinking milk from a cow, drinking blood from a cow, I guess. But I digress. Things are starting to get heated over in Palestine, over in Israel, over in these countries, but it's just a show. It's just a show. The world is a stage. The real scary part is the fact that one day, if it hasn't happened already, humans have their purpose, okay? Because we're like cattle. We're like cattle to these people. All right. That's why we're sold on the stock market, because we're cattle. And on that day, when they go to cash in for their human, and this planet is theirs completely, they're just waiting. That's all they're doing. They're just waiting. They're waiting for their moment. But we'll all be too distracted with politics and whatever else that they've thrown at us to keep us distracted. And it's not a movie. There's no one coming to save you. Do you understand? You got to save yourself. Got to save your people. And that's what Hitler saw. He said, okay, nobody's coming to save us, so I guess this is what we need to do. We've watched the annihilation of people groups. Almost complete annihilation of people groups. Every empire, almost every single one, Byzantine Empire, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, um, the Egyptian Empire, all fell. And why? The German Empire, the USSR, fell because they were infiltrated by the Jupiters. It's a holy land, it's a holy war, and they want you to believe that it's religion that drives it. In a lot of their minds, it is religion, but it's not. It's where they came from to this planet. It's where they were, their box or whatever was left. And they came in, they portaled that way or whatever. It's a sacred spot for both of them, the Jupiters and the Saturnians. And one day, well, I hope I'm not around or my kids, but the more I sit here, I think it's probably likely going to happen that we're going to experience something so incredibly terrifying, and we'll have nobody really to blame but ourselves for not really doing anything. It's like knowing, we all know that there's terrible things happening to kids, but who's really going in there to try to say, oh, I hope somebody else does it? Oh, there's still slaves in the world. Oh, I hope somebody else goes in and saves them. Right? I don't want to get off my comfy chair, my high horse. Same. 'Cause I'm sitting inside my house, not doing anything about it. I think it's only when we get angry enough, we get upset enough, that we're going to make a change and we're going to come together, literally come together. But we have to be organized, and we're not organized. So your planet's been sold off to another species. And actually, everyone here is just biding time for whatever big plan that they have. I don't really know exactly what will happen once they completely get the Earth, but I know that a lot of the humans will be wiped out. And it really won't matter. Your political affiliation won't matter, your skin tone, it won't matter, your gender. Anyway, thank you all for letting me rant. And I appreciate you coming to my channel and listening. And at this point, I can't say if I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I think we all should be offended by the state of our world. You shouldn't be offended at me in any way. We should be offended by the fact that we know all this information and we sit idly by. I'm offended. I'm disgusted. And I'm disgusted with myself. Now, will the Anunnaki come back? Possibly. And maybe that's what the Jupiters are worried about. But I'm going to tell you this. They're going to have everybody so upset because what's going to happen is right now people are incredibly infuriated with the Jupiters. Some people are. And then something's going to happen to where everyone sympathizes with the Jupiters again. Super, super, super sympathizes. Mark my word. Just like they did with Auschwitz, just like they did with the concentration camps. Mark my word. And then when the Anunnaki come, who I did say, there's no one that's coming to save you. But if we don't choose the right side, humanity is going to be lost forever. And for the so-called star seeds that have been placed here, please start doing something aside from talking about how you're a star seed. And I always thought, if I was a star seed, and did I really come back to the past? Did I time travel to the past to see how this place was destroyed and experience it firsthand? In hopes that maybe one day, what's that kid from Terminator? You know, where he like changed the course of everything. That someone would hear this conversation that I'm having and decide I'm that person. I'm going to Connor. What is it? Not Sean Connor. Connor. Anyway, they would hear this message and they would say, yeah, we're going to do an underground thing and we're going to take back our planet. And we don't have to eradicate, you know, another species of humans. We don't have to do that. We just have to put them in a different position to where they're not overpowering the humans and using us as shields, using us as stock, using us to advance their own narratives. So everybody's so worried about people using us to make money. You really need to focus on using us to have world domination. To completely, I don't think they'd ever wipe out humans completely. We're too valuable when it comes to like the cattle mentality. You know, the courageous nature of a human. But it has been, for some, it has been muted. So I'm going to spend less time on Facebook. I'm going to spend less time on the internet. I'm not going to watch TV. I'm not going to watch shows. I'm going to stop the indoctrination. You know, I'm just not going to listen to it anymore. So I hope you all have a good day. And you could put any comment you want, to be honest. I don't care if it's bad. I don't care if it's good. I do ask that you be respectful to other people, you know, not say anything derogatory because we can prove our points without being gross. Okay? All right, take care everyone.